So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. One of the number one things that I am absolutely tired of hearing, and I'm just gonna be blunt, and this is gonna be one of those type of videos, so buckle up. I am so sick of hearing people talk about how they've experienced racism every day and how black people are dealing with racism every day and how black people go through so much racism. And you know, the funniest thing is I always want to ask these people, what racism have you experienced? So I want to have a conversation and really take a look and dive into this conversation. And if you rock with independent thinkers, people that are able to use their mind to think logically and come up with their own conclusions, then, you know, maybe you subscribe to the platform. So here we go. I want to just start out by saying that I do not believe that black people experience racism nearly as much as they claim that they do, or that racism is even that prevalent of an issue for black people in this modern era. I will also argue that a majority of blacks have most likely never experienced racism a day in their life, on a mass scale at least. Now, of course, there are outliers, and of course, there are a significant amount of people that are in their 60s and their 70s and their 80s that were alive during the Civil War period. It doesn't apply to you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to these woke, pro-black social justice warriors that always love to point out about or to use racism as a crutch. And that's really what it is. It's the victim Olympics. You're using racism or what you perceive to be as a black plight, and you use it to excuse your either bad behavior, justify the worst things about the culture, or to in general just basically do whatever you want and get a get out of jail free card because you're a minority. The reason why I believe that a majority of black people have never really experienced racism on a mass scale is the fact that I don't even believe that people really have a real grasp of what these words mean. There is a distinction between racism and prejudice, okay? So first, in order to understand and this is where a lot of people mess up at. They want to redefine terms or make up terms and definitions to fit whatever it is that they're trying to push. So in order to have a conversation, we're going to define what racism and prejudice are, and use that, and now you'll be able to understand why I'm able to come to the conclusions that I come to. It's called formulating the argument. I understand a lot of you don't know how to do that. It's okay. You will learn today. So, racism, by definition, is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. Or, to use the simpler definition, is believing that one race is superior to another race, or believing that different races are superior or inferior to other races, right? Now we look at prejudice. Prejudice is defined as a preconceived opinion not based on reason or actual experience. Google them. I'm not making this up. This is not how I define these terms. This is how they are defined. So, most people confuse and use those two terms interchangeably. A lot of people that are accused of being racist are really prejudiced people. And let's look at that definition again. It's a preconceived opinion that doesn't have any reason or prior experience. That means that the person doesn't have to feel or know anything about you to have a preconceived opinion about you. That does not inherently make them racist. There is a distinction. Racism is a type of prejudice. Not all prejudice is racism. All racism is prejudice. That's how it goes. You're not. A lot of people, in my personal opinion, I believe that it's debatable that more people are prejudiced than they aren't. In fact, I would say that most people are prejudiced in some way, shape, or form. And you don't believe me? Let a group of thugs be walking on the same side of the street as you, and most of you will either clutch your bag, clutch your pockets, or you'll cross the street. Most people are prejudiced in some way, shape, or form. Let's just be real. If you see a homeless dude that looks like he's strung out on crack, guess what? You're prejudging him. He could just be crazy. He could be mentally ill. So you're prejudging him. Most people are prejudiced in some way, shape, or form. So, using that frame, let's just be honest and talk about the fact that, if anything, most black people are racist anyway. Most black people are some of the most racist people you will ever meet in your life. And not just that, they're racist, and they will use the racism of past experiences to justify why they can be racist. I would argue that more people in general, outside of black people, more people in the world are prejudiced as opposed to being specifically racist. And I think it's entirely hypocritical for black people to sit up and complain and lie and say that most black people are experiencing racism in mass. It's not true. It's not true. I would also argue that, if we're being real, that a lot of blacks are just they just rely. They're experiencing prejudice, but they rely on the racism card as an excuse whenever they have conflict with another race. It's the perfect accountability free card. Oh, I don't have to. Oh, you were racist to me. Oh, I feel like you were racist. Oh, it doesn't matter if I was trying to steal in the store. You know, the fact that you were even looking at me means that you were racist. If you ask me, it's just a way to shift accountability and try to make yourself look innocent so that you can do whatever you want. That's just my opinion. But nobody ever really wants to think about the factors and why you're being prejudged in the first place. You walking around with your pants sagging. You know what I mean? If you walk around with your pants sagging, looking like a thug, guess what? People are going to treat you and view you as a thug. You could be as brilliant as Einstein, but people are going to prejudge you based off of the image that you're putting forth. And that's just the truth. That's the truth. There are things that you can control. Guess what? The type of hair you have, the type of clothes you wear, they impact how people will judge you. People are already judging you in the first 7 seconds that they meet you. So it's unreasonable. It's unreasonable to sit there and believe that just because you're being perceived a certain way because of how you carry yourself, that person is inherently racist. And let's just be honest. If you carry yourself the best way that you can, you're not doing anything crazy, you're not causing problems, and people still feel that way about you, then guess what? At the end of the day, as long as they're not touching you, harming you, doing anything to you, then tell them to kick the French toast rocks. Because for real, who cares? Who cares? What is that gonna do to change you if you're doing what you need to do and you're successful already? How is that gonna affect you? There is not a white person alive that has ever made me feel like, even at my worst, that I was a victim of racism. I can't relate. I can't relate. I'm not a victim. Let's just be honest. A lot of people have not experienced real racism. Let's just be real. All jokes aside, a lot of people have not experienced real racism. A lot of y'all pro-black people, that you people in the comment section that talk about you've experienced racism. How many dogs have been sicked on you? How many marches got shut down because of hoses? How many boycotts, real boycotts, have you had to endure? What legislation are you voting for in order to push your agenda? Because based off of who you vote for, how many of you have dealt with KKK harassing you, driving outside your house? Real question. How many of you really been through civil rights? Jim Crow, real slavery, real harassment, where they showing up at the voting booths harassing you to get you to vote for the Democratic Party, where you got to risk your life just to have the ability to read. If that ain't something that tells you that right there, a lot of black people are illiterate. You could literally die. You could literally die for learning to read, and black people are illiterate. They choose to be illiterate. Talk about racism. Talk about the black plight. We being honest. We gonna keep it a buck. I'm JayyRedd Unfiltered. We gonna keep it a buck. Most of y'all pro-blacks, you're only in the position you're in because you're black. It's not because of your merits. It's because you're black. You're a diversity hire. Want to talk about racism? The white man hired you because of laws. You want to talk about racism? They made legislation to make people hire you. You have more opportunity now than you ever have, and all you want to do is sit up and cry about victim Olympic shit. Let's just be for real. I don't even have ethical principles. But you want to talk about racism? You can't fix your own community, but you want to talk about racism. Black community doesn't have nothing to hope for, no leaders, but you want to talk about racism. The people that are doing well, you hate them and you do everything you can to tear them down. But you want to talk about racism. The people that are causing you the most harm in your everyday life look like you, but you want to talk about racism. And if we're being honest, blacks are some of the most racist people on the planet. So this whole argument that you make is hypocritical in the first place. Your premise is off.